For 5 years, I sent my family $3,000 every month. But I found out they called me the ATM behind my back. At my parents' 40th anniversary, they made me out to be ungrateful. I stood up and put my phone on speaker. Hey, Reddit. For the last 5 years, I've lived abroad, building a life that was hard to make happen. I took on several jobs, worked long hours, and lived simply to make ends meet while saving a bit each month. I sent $3,000 to my family back home every month. My parents and siblings knew about it. I did it out of love, out of duty, and because I thought it was helping. Rent, groceries, medical bills, emergencies, I took care of it all. I didn't ask for anything in return, not even a thank you. I just thought they appreciated it, even if they didn't say so. But after a while, things started to feel strange. Calls from home became shorter. Conversations felt more distant. When I talked about visiting, they didn't seem excited. I thought maybe it was just because everyone was busy. I kept telling myself that family was family, and even if they didn't show it the way I wanted, they cared. Then, 2 months ago, my cousin accidentally sent me a screenshot that wasn't meant for me. It was from a group chat called ATM Updates. The messages were cruel. My name was mentioned a few times, in a sarcastic, cold way. My siblings had been calling me the ATM for years. My mom even joked that she hoped I didn't find a girlfriend, or the money might stop. My dad responded with a laughing emoji. My sister complained that I was late sending money 1 month, calling me a spoiled brat living in luxury abroad, hoarding cash. I couldn't believe it. It felt like a punch in the gut. I spent the whole night reading those messages in shock. They didn't see me as family anymore. I was just a wallet. And no one in that chat, no one stood up for me. Not even my younger brother, who I paid tuition for after he failed his first year. I felt used, betrayed, and stupid. Still, I didn't confront them. I wanted to, but I knew the perfect time would come, my parents' 40th anniversary. They were planning a big party. My older brother told me I wasn't required to come, but if I was around, I should stop by. That was my confirmation. They didn't want me there unless I could give something, a gift, a check, more money. I flew back without telling anyone. I didn't want a big welcome or fake love. I stayed with a friend nearby and showed up at the party unannounced, wearing simple clothes. The party was fancy, probably funded by the money I sent. There were catered meals, decorations, even a live band. I watched my siblings raise their glasses and make toasts. I stayed back just watching. Eventually, I walked in and people gasped, not with joy but surprise. A few tried to act happy to see me. My mom gave me an awkward hug, and my dad seemed uncomfortable. My sister whispered something to her husband and rolled her eyes. That should have been enough for me to walk away, but I stayed. Then came the speeches. My older brother, always the loudest, grabbed the mic and started taking shots at me, pretending it was a heartfelt message. He said I'd always been the spoiled one, living overseas and enjoying life while the rest of them stayed home and held everything down. He mentioned how I didn't call much or visit, and how I had the nerve to act like I was doing them a favor by sending money. People laughed, some awkwardly, some knowingly. My mom smiled like it was all a joke, but I could tell it wasn't. The speech wasn't spontaneous, it was planned. Something inside me snapped. I stood up, walked to the front, and pulled out my phone. The room quieted right away. My heart was racing, but my hands were steady. I tapped the speaker button and played some voice notes and messages from the ATM Updates group chat. The room went dead silent. One of the messages was my sister complaining that if I didn't send the money on time again, she'd have to cancel her salon appointment. Another was my mom saying how embarrassing it was that I didn't send extra for their anniversary. The last one was my dad laughing about how I'd probably cry if I ever found out they called me the ATM. Gasps, whispers. The whole room froze. I looked around slowly. No one met my eyes. My brother tried to speak, but I raised my hand. I said, "I'm not here to ruin your celebration. I'm here because I needed to see it for myself. The truth. For 5 years, I've broken my back to support all of you. I've skipped meals, missed birthdays, lost sleep. And this is how you repay me? With jokes, lies, fake smiles. This stops today." Then I walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't wait for anyone to follow me. I left them with their wine glasses and awkward silence, with the reality of what they'd done hanging in the air. The messages were still playing from my phone on the table when I closed the door behind me. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. The next morning, my phone started blowing up. Messages, voicemails, missed calls. Some were apologies, some were angry. But one message stood out, and it came from someone I never expected. And that message changed everything. It came through that evening as I was about to leave Kevin's place. Kevin had spent the whole day trying to get me to relax, to let go of everything, to stop letting my family control my life. But deep down, I knew there was more to the story. I couldn't leave things unresolved. When I saw it was from my younger brother, Liam, I hesitated. Of everyone in that chat, I thought he might be the one to stand up for me. Liam was the youngest, the one I had taken care of after our parents split their time between work and everything else. I paid for his textbooks, his dorm rent, even his first semester of tuition when he couldn't afford it. I thought he appreciated me, that he saw me as more than just an ATM. But when I opened his message, it hit me like a slap to the face. It was blunt and cold. It said, "Nice move, man. You embarrassed the whole family. Hope it was worth it. Don't bother coming back." I stared at the screen for a long time. It felt like a punch in the stomach. I had always thought Liam looked up to me, that he was grateful for everything I did. But the truth in his words hit hard. He wasn't just upset about the public confrontation. He was angry I exposed what they'd been doing to me for years. He felt more loyal to the idea of family as a whole, a group that needed to stay quiet, to keep up appearances, even if it meant tearing me down. It's strange how betrayal works. I sat there questioning everything I'd done for him. Every time I helped, every time I covered for him. It all felt like it didn't matter. Maybe in some strange way, I had given too much. Not just with money, but emotionally too. I had been playing a role I never should have accepted. The night dragged on and my phone kept buzzing. Some messages were from family, others from old friends who had seen everything on social media. Everyone had an opinion, but no one seemed to truly understand what I was going through. Then the messages stopped. The calls stopped. For the first time in years, I felt a strange peace. I wasn't checking my bank account to see how much I had sent that month. I wasn't worried about the next request. The only thing I felt now was the sharp sting of being discarded by the people I had trusted the most. A few days later, my mother called. I had been avoiding her messages and had turned off all notifications from the family group chat, where they continued to mock me. But I knew she wouldn't let it go. I reluctantly answered. She was quiet at first, but I could hear the familiar edge in her voice, the one that always appeared when she was trying to make me feel guilty for standing up for myself. She started with her usual, "I can't believe you did this to your father, to the family. You humiliated us. You've destroyed everything." I didn't interrupt. I let her speak, not because I was afraid, but because I knew whatever she said would only prove how little she understood the truth, how much they had gotten away with. Finally, after a long silence, she said, "We were just blowing off steam. It's not that serious. You know, we appreciate everything you do." Blowing off steam? Was she serious? For years, I had sent money without a second thought, trying to ease their burdens. I had worked myself into the ground, canceled vacations, and sacrificed time with friends just to make sure they had everything they needed. And now she was downplaying it, calling it not serious. I felt anger rise, but I remained calm. I told her firmly I was done. No more money. No more playing the role of the financial savior. I wasn't going to be their A-team any longer. There was silence on the other end. I knew she didn't want to hear that. She was probably hoping I'd backpedal like I had before, but this time I didn't. I couldn't. When I hung up, I felt a strange sense of relief. It wasn't happy relief, but it was relief from carrying a weight that wasn't mine to bear. The fallout came quickly. The next day, the messages flooded in. My older brother, Michael, sent a long rant about how ungrateful I was and how I had ruined everything. He said that after all they had done for me, all the sacrifices they had made, this was how I repaid them, by turning my back on family. His words stung deeply. It was as if he had forgotten everything I had given up for them. Then came the guilt trips. My sister sent a text telling me how hard things were going to get without my support, how they might have to move out of their house, and how everything I had done would mean nothing if I stopped helping. The weight of those words was heavy, but I knew it wasn't real. They had survived before I started sending money, and they would survive now. But the message that hurt the most came from my father. It was short and cold. "You'll regret this someday." That was the one I had been dreading, the attempt to guilt me into submission. He didn't care about the truth or the pain they had caused me. He just wanted to make sure I kept sending money. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The truth was already clear to me. The family I had tried to protect, the family I had supported with everything I had, wasn't really family at all. They had treated me like a tool, a means to an end. But then something unexpected happened. The flood of messages stopped. My phone went silent. Days passed without a single text. It felt like they had all moved on, as if I was the one left behind. Maybe I was, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel the crushing weight of their expectations. I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. I used the silence to heal. I started therapy, something I had put off for too long. I began rebuilding my life. I invested in myself. I started working on projects I had always dreamed of, but never had the time for because I was too busy taking care of everyone else. I traveled more. I spent time with friends who actually cared about me. For the first time in a long time, I was living for myself. A week later, I received a letter. Not an email or text, but a handwritten letter. It was from my cousin Sarah. She had overheard some conversations between my parents and siblings at family gatherings, and she had always felt uneasy about it. She told me that my parents had been planning to ask me to buy them a new house. They were going to present it at the anniversary party, but when I didn't respond to the initial speech, they switched to guilt-tripping me. I was stunned. For years, they had pretended to struggle. They had acted like they needed help. But the truth was, they had planned on asking for much more than I had ever imagined. They were willing to use anything, even my loyalty, to get it. That was my final wake-up call. I realized then that I had been nothing more than a resource to them, a way to maintain their lifestyle. They had never seen me as their son or sibling. I was just a piggy bank. So I did what I had to do. I blocked them. I shut them out completely. I deleted their numbers, removed them from my social media, and walked away. It wasn't easy. It was painful, but it was necessary. In the months that followed, I began to see things clearly. My parents' marriage wasn't as perfect as it seemed. My siblings weren't as close as they pretended to be. They had all been complicit in a game I hadn't even realized I was part of. And as I distanced myself from them, I realized something crucial. I wasn't missing anything. I built a new life for myself, one not tied to their expectations or demands. I started my own business, something I had always dreamed of but never had the chance to pursue. I went on trips I had put off for too long. I made new friends. I laughed. I smiled. I healed. And I never looked back. I was no longer their ATM. I was just me. And that was more than enough.